My mother was, football coach's wife.
Yeah.
My mother spanked us at high school stadiums all over the state of Alabama, and various bleachers, things like that.
So I think that's a good thing. You talked about how that was a good thing. She doesn't like being portrayed that way.
She said, "I'd like for you to talk about the times maybe that I, kissed your boo-boo or something like that,
Right.
not just constantly bringing out the belt and tearing y'all up in public places."
And you're like,
everywhere.
those were great, but those aren't necessarily core memories. Those are not easy to
Did you
remember.
love the fact that we would complain about being embarrassed by what happened? And she was like, "Well, you
picked the spot.
You keep picking the place."
I think I'm going to end up using that with the kids.
Okay.
Because I'm not a big public discipliner, but that's in part because the culture has shifted.
Oh, yes, it has.
People, they'll be like writing down your license plate number.
Oh, no. My dad one time whipped the entire neighborhood because we set the woods on fire. I'm not making this up. This is not me trying to be funny. I'm not even trying to do a bit. Our phone was ringing.
Yeah.
Now think about that day versus today. Why would your phone be ringing or your cell phone? For people mad. People going to sue you, whatever. They were literally calling him and thanking him.
For disciplining all the people that set a fire.
Coach, thank you for disciplining my son. I hope I can discipline yours one day.
That's the way they
you
trade
back.
off.
To pay you back.
Yeah, I owe you one.
Yeah.
But let me help you by disciplining everybody else. Now, I guess, and I was going to do this later, but we should give a minor disclaimer with the whole spanking discussion. Minor disclaimer.
Minor.
And it's because we're observing Orphan Sunday, and I, as a foster parent, understand that there are very specific guidelines around foster children. No one is expecting you to break the law and give corporal punishment to foster children.
Absolutely not.
This is your biological children.
Because when you take on that role, you realize there's limitations because they're not fully yours yet.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a whole different thing.
So I feel like we needed to call that out.
Whole different thing.
But anyway, you gave us the fun spanking stories, and maybe we'll even get back to those a little bit. Hey, I guess we didn't say this, but welcome to the sermon recap.
Hello.
The Reverend Dr. Rick Burgess is here with us in the. Yeah, you're looking for your tie. Well, he's neither Reverend nor Doctor, so I don't know. We were actually talking about this. The Baptists are kind of fast and loose with ordination, so who knows?
Did you just say that?
I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
I didn't say that.
I did text Pastor, like you were starting to really thump into the message. I texted Pastor, I think in a previous life, Rick Burgess might have been an independent, fundamental Baptist preacher.
Right. Yes.
It's in there somewhere.
I have friends of mine who are Pentecostal, and they say, "Why are you not with us?" I mean, I kid you not.
That's how you want to be.
Yeah, they're like, and they go and when we do these men's things, and they've seen me preach several times. They're like, "You're not a Baptist."
I know.
And I'm like, "No, Baptists are known for."
No, that's it. That's how you know that you're in a good spot because you have all these different people trying to claim you. You know, like Pentecostal over here, even. And maybe even the Reformed people are going to try to claim you.
I don't think so, according to my email.
They're really coming after you.
No, let me say this. This is my email. I tell people this all the time. This will not surprise anybody, and this is sad when I'm saying it's not nothing to celebrate.
All right.
You would think, for those of you who don't know what I do for a living, I do a radio show, and we are openly followers of Jesus, and we don't hide that or whatever. And people always say, "Oh, I bet you get a lot of complaints." And I'm like, "Not from lost people. Not from lost people. My email is loaded down with you're not doing it right." Not people saying, "I don't want to hear about this. This is not what I believe." I know those people are out there, but they don't really complain because they think, "Well, that's his thing."
That's his thing.
Yeah, and
they don't know the difference.
But usually, and so I've come to the conclusion that if I was
You're going to draw a diagram here?
If I was, this is based on my...
This is a very visual presentation.
Based on my email.
Okay.
If I could somehow become a once saved, always saved, fall from grace, Arminian, hyper-Calvinist, Pentecostal, who speaks in tongues, who left all of the Protestant faith and went to the Catholic Church, I'd be perfect.
Well, I don't know
According to my email.
You've got that all written down right there. Why you just get to work on that.
Right. That's a hard one right there.
I had to share this. Actually, I shared this with the congregation a few years ago about like what I need to be the perfect worship pastor. The worship needs to be plenty loud, but also soft. Right. You know, it needs to be theologically deep, but also easily repeatable. And anyway, there's like 10 of those. You know, all of these tensions. So hopefully I think you fell pretty well in the middle today.
That's why I think today's message, honestly, and I'm not kidding around, no matter what your theological denomination is, we couldn't run from the words today.
Absolutely.
Whether you believe, how the timeline works and we could not run from today that Scripture says if you're a child of God, these things would be present. And if you're a child of the devil, these things would be present, or the lack of those things, and you're either one or the other.
So let's dig into the message, but before we do, I've got something fun for you at the end. I was going to do it at the outset, so I'm telling everybody.
That felt like we were about to do a sponsor based on what I was doing. But before we do, let's hear from our sponsor.
No, we'll make sure we're gonna go with Joe Boxer or whatever. I don't know what is
I
it?
don't do
What is
Joe
it, underwear?
Boxer.
I don't know. You're looking.
You talking about Tommy John's?
Yeah, Tommy John's.
Okay.
So
Most
if you guys
comfortable
want
underwear you ever worn, if not your
well,
money back.
Why do they do the Tommy John? Is it a thing because we know about the Tommy John surgery, so they have the name recognition?
No, it's two completely different things. You're way off.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well,
And,
I'm sorry. I'm allowed to say
The
these
thing
things.
that I
don't get
thought
paid
you would
by
land
them.
on is, so I don't like my underwear, you'll take them back?
I don't know. I'm not even going to go
Do we
there.
want that?
Here's all I'm saying. We're
Right.
going to get to the message. I'm just telling the faithful few that are out there that normally we do all the fun stuff at the beginning, and then you guys want to like turn it off because here comes the Bible and all that. Yeah, I know you guys. I know how this works. You're a bunch of despicable sinners. Here's what I'm saying. We're gonna get into the message now, and then we got a fun thing that we're gonna talk about with the men's gathering at the end. Okay. So because I just feel we got the momentum going, let's dig into the message. Now I loved the way you started this, and if you'll permit me saying so, it feels like you've let Pastor Mac disciple you well, because you opened it up and you said, now everybody, we're gonna study Romans chapter 8. So open up your Bibles to the book of Galatians, put a finger at 1 John chapter 3, and we'll get started. And that's my favorite move that Pastor, it's not unique to him, but it's my favorite move that he does.
Well, I don't know how he felt, but when I saw the beautiful graphic, that the creative team put together,
excellent
my
job.
first reaction was, uh-oh.
Okay.
Yeah, because I thought I'm getting to Romans, but I'm not going to start with it.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're used to that.
And I thought, well, they deal with Pastor Mac every week. This will be no surprise.
No, that's my favorite.
Right.
He's like, we're preaching out of Exodus today. So in 1934, Winston Churchill, and you're just like, wait, I didn't see that coming. He always brings it back. It's just surprising sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I struggle, and it's funny because I was talking to the team, when my son was part of the team, he tried to give me advice, and of course he still does, that same world of, he said, Dad, for the creative team of the churches in which you speak, and I love you and thank you for being my father.
Yes.
I added that part. I just sensed that was in there.
Just felt that was
He said, you are a nightmare for the people who are doing graphics. You're a nightmare for those who are doing cameras.
I think your headshots look good.
And he said, Dad, I literally, and I told the guys this, I actually was in Panama City preaching, and a guy in the booth took his headset and threw it up in the air. He just said, about the third time, I said, I didn't send you this, but I want to cover this. He just...
Yeah. He's like, I'm done with this.
I have a hard time going into the pulpit, and I'm the opposite of my wife, who will be prepared to the letter. You would have everything you needed, and she would never vary from it.
Yeah.
I have a hard time being confined by, tell us what you're going to talk about.
I wish that Pastor was here right now, because he would be saying such almighty amens to everything that you're saying. And I don't know, the team here is great. They've gotten used to tracking it down.
When I do it right, like there is a great feeling when you look to the screen and there are the scriptures.
There it is.
And you look up there and you can actually point and walk through it. It's actually a great feeling. I wish I was better at it.
Yeah, somehow not a great enough feeling to actually make you change your ways.
Close.
It's getting there.
Close.
We can all learn new things in time.
I did it once and it felt great, just couldn't repeat it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, once out of however many years it's been, I mean, that's one.
I drive my wife crazy. We'll be speaking somewhere doing a marriage thing.
I can't imagine.
And she'll look over and me and I'll be shuffling around. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm changing something." And she's like,
"Changing something?
What?"
Yeah. It's like the deadline for that was weeks ago.
Like this right here. This was this morning. That was.
That was next to everything you had in the message. That's good. That's good. Okay.
This was me at like 7. This is 7:30 this morning.
Yeah. Well, listen. I should say this because I'm giving you too hard a time. Like that is an amazing gift you have, because we've all been there at those, at those churches where the guy gets in the pulpit and be like, "Lord gave me just something completely different this morning, and I just wrote this right before I came out." And you're all just like, "Oh man, well, there's no way we're getting to the lunch on time today."
Well, you also kind of find yourself, those of us that have to prepare lessons. This is a terrible thing to say, but if you don't confess sin, you can't repent. I find myself thinking, I hope this doesn't go well. What'll really bother me if this is a good message.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
I'm not going to be discouraged from doing it again. I'm just going to come back and do it the next week. It's not my fault the Lord gifted me this well.
Yeah. So that's funny.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I dreamed I had to give an extemporaneous sermon on the coat of many colors. Did I text you about this?
Yes, you did.
I did?
I can't remember what you said.
I said I had to, and I dreamed that you were sitting over here and Pastor was sitting in his normal spot. And and you texted me like right before, like, hey, this is gonna be the coat of many colors, and you have got to show the Christological connection in the coat.
I was the one that texted that?
Yes, specifically the coat of many colors, and I, man, it was a very vivid dream, and I started going for it. But
how'd you do?
I can't remember. Right. It's one of those. I wish I could make something up right now, but anyway.
My worst one though. I can always tell, and everybody always laughs about my wife, and she's an incredible Bible teacher.
Yeah, she
and
is.
what you don't want to see, and I was watching her even today, you do not want to see this. Look, and all my friends and everybody, guys who've taught with you don't want to see this. Look, she does this. She goes, and she does this face. She goes. And she makes a note, not making a note like, wow, that was fresh. She's making a note like, and look, then you see this.
Yeah, this one.
And then she starts flipping the pages. So
it's like a doctor. It goes in your permanent file.
So I came off one time from speaking, and she goes, and I knew that. Let me tell you when it's bad with your wife is if you have to bring the message up.
Oh, boy.
If you're already in the car and they still haven't brought it up, you know what I mean?
You're better off just not bringing it up.
I get in the car and I said, well, what did you think about the message? She goes, now that was a message on Joseph. Is that correct? And I said, yeah, of course it was.
That's
That's what reminded me of it, because we said about the coat of many colors. She goes, well, you called him Joshua the entire message.
No, did you really?
And she goes, and I found myself flipping to Joshua. We were all very lost. She goes, and I said, why didn't you tell me? She goes, I tried to get your attention. You wouldn't look at me. And I said, you know why? Because I'm afraid I'm going to see what I just talked about.
Yeah.
When I heard when she said it was a message on Joseph, right? I said,
right
yes. She goes, well, you called him Joshua the entire message.
Now that's very difficult. Now I thought she was going to get like nitpicky and we were going to have theological but that's really bad.
That's bad.
That is really rough. Man, yeah, I'm thinking of a couple of.
And you start picturing everybody at lunch all over the place, going, "What was that guy talking about?"
And yeah, well, and it happens to the best of us. I'm not gonna share my.
Because we could do so many stories.
We could do way more stories on me. You know, Rick's thing with me is like he'll just say, if it weren't for this little thing here, you would be all the way. Anyway, that was a had to be there kind of bit. Sorry. I'm still recovering. Let's look at Romans chapter 8.
Which I didn't do first.
Which you did not do first. Well, it's very much a parallel passage.
It very is.
I guess my question is, because I think people are going to, especially people watching right now, they're going to go and watch the message. I guess I'm more interested in what were the things that you left out? Like, I know that there's some things that end up on the cutting room floor, just some rabbits you wanted to trace, like. What do you think?
Well, you said this about me, and during our time of each other,
only
being
behind
friends.
your back. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Right. When you said, this, and this won't surprise you in the least. Where I struggled the most is when I hit the thing about the call to difficulty, persecution, and suffering.
Camp out there.
I can just land, as you know, I can just land there.
Yeah.
And you also know that when you told me about trying to do something involved, you didn't pressure me with Adoption Sunday and Orphan Sunday.
Out there if you wanted to.
And then when I let you know that, I'm thinking I'm going to actually, I'm going to contrast that with the children of the devil.
I think that was wise, though. I think that we need more of that. Yeah.
When think about it. If you've ever preached in Romans chapter 8, it's so hard not to just let it take you away completely. So I tried to stay. That's why I almost went to Galatians as a disciplinary tool to say, remember what you're talking about. You're only talking about adoption. Yeah, but I could have done more on co-heirs and heirs. That's where I could have done more.
There's a lot there, and that's one of those things that it's still theologically very much a mystery.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's cosmologically significant that we are co-heirs with Christ. Like that gets into the identity with Christ and God looking at us in the same way and trying to discern exactly what that means. Because obviously, as a member of the Trinity, He is distinct from us. So. Yeah, I mean, that could be a message in itself.
And that one, and also, I would say where I struggled a little bit, is we see in the new heaven, new earth, and I'm teaching that right now. I'm teaching Revelation in a Wednesday Bible study. I finished it this week, by the way.
Yeah, we need to plug that before we go.
But anyway, it's a little late now. I'm finishing it on this Wednesday.
Well, people can go back and watch it.
No, but
I'm not going to plug you if you're not on the show.
But it's clear,
what are you talking about?
It's clear in the new heaven and the new earth and the new Jerusalem, we are serving God. But it's also clear as we're told in Scripture, that Jesus says he will even let us recline and he will serve us, which is mind-blowing.
It's out there, yeah.
So then, but here, the writings of Paul is saying that we're leaving being slaves because slaves don't have the access that heirs and co-heirs have, and we're becoming children, and not just children, sons and daughters, which is an adult,
Right.
meaning I can have the blessings now. And I will tell you, I struggle with going, well, do we ever really leave being a bondservant? We really don't.
Yeah, it's
But Paul, but I realize what he's talking about is the world, the way the world sees slavery versus the family of the master, you know, and we went from calling him master to now calling him Abba Father.
Yeah.
That's what Paul was trying to say, but I will admit I struggled a little bit. And if you notice, I kind of shied away of saying we're not slaves anymore, we're now sons and daughters, because we never really leave being bondservants of Christ, especially on this side of glorification. But even in the new heaven, new earth, we're still serving.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
Right.
I'm sure you've seen that as a key part of the eschatology is that like our work, this, submitting creation to our work is still something to have in the new heavens, new earth. Yeah, good point. Well, and then I think one of the strongest thing, you did this at least twice, was talking about how easily we'll like half remember a scripture.
Yeah.
We'll like say, we'll water it down and we'll say, and this is one example, right? You mentioned Matthew chapter 7. We might have time to get to that, but this is the one that you hit on, where you're talking about where you get to the provided that we suffer with him in order that we may also be glorified with him. Is that verse 16? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's right at the end of 8. It's the last sentence. It is verse 17.
17, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and I want you to think about this, and I didn't cross-reference today, but all I could think about was, what did Ananias say to the Apostle Paul after he was blinded?
Oh,
Remember,
boy,
he doesn't want to go.
testing.
He doesn't want to go tell him, and because he's afraid of him.
Oh, yeah.
And God says, "No, I've got him ready to go now. He's blinded, and I need you to go tell him
Right.
all he must suffer for me."
Yeah.
So
He's
there it
my
is.
chosen instrument.
As I'm calling you to this ministry, it will be a ministry, and then you get to 2 Corinthians, is it right, 12, where he gives you a whole list of all the horrible things, and then he gets down in there where he's saying, I even have a thorn in my flesh that I prayed 3 times about, and God won't remove it. And I realize he won't remove it because it keeps me humble, because he did let me see the third heaven. And he said, so now all he's done to me, he needs to keep me humble. Therefore, I will celebrate my suffering. I'll celebrate persecution. I'll celebrate calamity, because when I'm weak, then he's strong. And so this suffering dynamic, it's almost one we go, nah. Yeah. But what does Jesus say? You heard me do it in the second service. I don't know if I did in the first, where he said, count the cost, pick up your cross, deny self, all counterculture things. And I hope we understand that that Jesus Christ is completely counterculture.
I guess if we're going to talk about that a little bit, because I know you've covered this a whole lot. Give us Give us your brief answer to the conundrum of like, well, I'm not suffering a lot. Do I need to go out and look for additional suffering?
No. Yeah. We are not going out looking for trouble. And if you think about it, I don't think there's anybody who can truly say they're not suffering.
I'm talking about, I guess, enough.
Enough. Well, and so now we're getting into legalism.
Tackle that, because this is a really common issue that people struggle with.
Let's go back to this first of all. You say, well, what has my redemption cost me? Because it's free. Right. I got that. But so that doesn't mean, well, I guess I'm not one of them, because I'm not traveling to the ends of the earth, and I haven't had to quit my job, or, I actually do pretty well. I haven't lost all my finances. But Jesus said what he's really talking about there is one of the things that we never talk about, but it is a sacrifice in this side of glorification, but it has cost you your sin.
Yes.
All of us must fight that fight, which at times can be suffering, of denying ourselves sinful things that our flesh is craving. Even though our spirit is now alive, as we talked about, and through sanctification that becomes a little bit easier, but I have found on this side of glorification that even though I've seen victory over one sin, another one just walks in and says, hey, you remember me?
Yeah.
So I think we're all suffering through that. And don't. I've had people with my wife's book about suffering, Sherry Burgess Bronner. I've had young women that won't read that book, and they won't read it because they're afraid God's going to require that of them. And we don't live that way. You're not looking for trouble or going, well, I hope something bad happens to me so I can feel like I'm close to God. I think there's enough denying self and enough sacrifice that the suffering is there for all of us. It's kind of like, I've had this happen before, where people walk up to me and they'll say, well, I got something going on, but man, I'm not going to tell you that because what you've been through. And I quickly stop them and I say, hey, whoa, God does not quantify suffering. If you're suffering, he cares. Yeah. And if you're suffering, we need to help you with it. He doesn't do a playoff going, well, this kid lost a child and this kid has poison oak. You know, I mean, it's what he's saying is he doesn't sit there and quantify that. When we're on this side of glorification and the new heaven and new earth, as Jesus said in John 16:33, he actually says nobody is exempt from tribulation. You will go through tribulation. Have peace because remember, I've overcome the world. So I think all of us are going to, but this is not a message today to say, well, I'm not really right with God if I don't go out and look for trouble. Trouble will come on its own. Don't worry about that. If you remain devoted to him.
That ministered to me deeply because I'm deathly allergic to poison oak. Thank you for that.
I was too for a long time, but I finally overcame it.
Really? Mm-hmm. You overcame it?
I'm trying to brag.
Wow. We're going to have to talk offline about that because I'm not sure that that's even possible. But I did want to say this. I had a conversation with someone it's fairly recently, talking about the whole hashtag first world problems thing.
Yes.
Because sometimes, yes, we complain too much, but also, like, if you're suffering through something just because it's unique, because you live in a first world country, does not disqualify it from being something that the Lord is using to establish his lordship in your life.
Well, one of the things that I mentioned Dallas Willard in the message today, and I remember him talking about in the book, The Spirit of the Disciplines, which, by the way, of all the Bible studies I've led, that's the only one people were about to quit on. They're like, please tell us we're coming out of this book pretty soon. Spirit
it's so convicting.
Oh, it's a touch. That's a rough book. But anyway, I mean, I've never had the men before saying, tell us when this is over. But one of the things he mentioned is just because you're in poverty doesn't mean you're right with God.
That's big.
And he said, I have found some of the most money-loving people I've ever met are poor people.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and he said, and people can also be arrogant about what they have, but they can also be arrogant about what they don't have.
Yeah.
Oh, our church is more devoted to God than that church because they have nice facilities and we don't. Yes. We meet in a basketball gym, so we're closer to God. That you got to watch that kind of stuff.
Well, we're even closer to God because we meet in 2 basketball gyms.
Right.
But the point is sound.
Again, not trying to brag.
And we talk about this a lot in our creative team. Just like, obviously, the Lord has richly blessed this church from a financial perspective. We have all kinds of different technology that we can use, which does fail from time to time because the lights weren't working today.
That's all right.
But like, these are things that the Lord has given us, and we try to steward them faithfully. So yeah, that's a really good point from Willard. There were so many points, and I don't think we're going to if we're going to be able to talk more about the men's gathering, I don't think that we can cover all the rest of the message. But I do really appreciate that you left us with, and I mean this, you left us with about the clearest way to respond that you possibly could. Like, are you searching your heart to see whether you're a child of God or a child of the devil? That is just so difficult to digest, how stark that is. Yeah,
and the thing that hit me the hardest, and it is in the message, so we won't land there because you got it, I used to think there was middle ground. I used to think there was like, well, I'm not quite, I mean, I'm with God and I'm not devoted, but I'm certainly not with the devil. And boy, the more I studied this stuff and the more I unpacked it, that middle ground that we've created just doesn't exist. That's created by human beings.
It is a modern creation, and you and me have talked at length, and pastors actually mentioned it before too. Dean and Sarah, The Unsaved Christian.
Yeah.
What a helpful book to remind us that nominalism is basically lostness, and we have got to be on the front lines of helping people understand that they're lost, so that we can minister to them and show them the way forward into being saved.
Amen.
So thank you for that message, brother. I'm glad you've been here, and we're going to turn the page a little bit because now we got to think about the men's.
Can I pick this up?
Yeah, I guess so. Or you can continue to take notes as we talk.
Would you like to take my notes?
I'm good. Although if you give them to Josh, he'll put them on eBay this week, and we'll just see how much we can
Sounds
get.
Good. Thank you, Josh.
We can get for them. So I've got a little fun thing for you now, because this, as you mentioned, and maybe we should talk. Actually, let's talk about this before I get into the trivia. So we're having a men's gathering this Thursday.
Yes.
What is the history behind men deciding, okay, we're going to get together and here's what we're going to do? We're all going to eat as much chili as our stomachs can endure.
I don't know.
And then while we're still together, like right after, mind you.
Yes.
There's no breaks. We're going to get in the smallest room possible and sit right next to each other for a couple hours.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. But last year, it was probably the most well-attended and successful ones we had.
And so we're doing it again.
How about this? Beans, beet, spices.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the musical fruit.
I was not.
Oh, okay.
But it's unbelievable. 21 different chilies. Do you remember how many last year we were trying? Did you judge? I judged last year.
I didn't
and
have-
then had to go to the emergency room after it was over. I had to try one of all these chilies, and some of them are extremely hot.
I want to try the hot. By the time I
No.
got there, I'm always doing. This is the problem. This is the tyranny. I'm always up there getting the music ready. I come back and everyone's like, "Kirkwood, you've got to try such and such," and I get there
it's
and
gone.
it's bone dry.
Can I ask one question?
Of course.
The Bible says sometimes angels are among us. We don't even know it, right?
That's true.
Right,
Yeah,
Hebrews.
entertained angels unawares
right.
is the phrase.
There was a guy, and I can't remember his name, nor have I seen him since,
Oh.
that made Johnny cakes last year. I walk up and I'm getting everything set up, and I said, "Who are you?" And he told me, and he said, "I've decided to come out here and make Johnny cakes to go
Those
with the
were
chili."
so good.
And I said, and I just turned and went about my business, and we enjoyed them. And he's vanished, and I've never seen him yet since then. And I don't know whether he's coming back, but I wonder if he was an angel. Did we have an angel make Johnny cakes for the chili supper last year?
Confirmed.
That was somebody new, as I recall.
It was an angel.
Is he
you.
still here?
Yeah.
Well, we
Do y'all
need to
remember who
get
that
him
was?
to- I wish I could remember because I had 2 of them. I had to fill up
They
on
were
the Johnny
so
cakes
good.
because there was no chili left.
Right.
But they were excellent.
Bitter.
They were exquisite.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
No, they did not taste bitter. And I'm not bitter. What are you coming
No,
after
I
me?
was talking about you being a little bitter. Because if you could take one of his delicious Johnny cakes,
Yes.
that apparently was like manna,
Yeah.
and because it was made by an angel, and dip it in the chili,
Yeah.
and then take one of
I'm
these.
sure that's theologically accurate that the angels made the manna, but
They
that's
did.
it's an interesting submission.
Funniest thing I ever heard, a guy told me it was the wheels that Ezekiel saw in the 4 creatures that cranked out manna. One of the funniest ones I've ever heard. By the way, see, that even got Josh. He's down. But anyway,
I
so,
can't believe that.
and I was stuck in a lobby somewhere at a church, and I
But
thought,
you just had to listen to
I was
them.
like, nobody loves me. Not one person loves me right now.
They're not delivering you from that.
No.
They're just there. They're
I think they
letting you
stood
suffer
along
through
over
it.
there to see how long I would listen.
Let's see. So speaking of chili, this is what we've prepared today. Not actual chili, although I campaigned to get us a couple of crock pots of chili that we could just
I love it.
taste, or even make some chili together. But we're not going to do that. So here's your quiz, Rick Burgess.
Okay.
And I know we're doing this. I know you don't like thinking on your feet, but I decided to put
not
this
my
to you
thing.
anyway. And are the lights bothering you, by the way? I
No.
know you're not. Okay,
No,
I just
no, I'm
you're
good.
surprisingly comfortable for someone who never does this.
Right.
You have to decide: is this? I keep laughing when I look at this. Is this the pepper, the restaurant, the country, the food, or the temperature?
Wow. Okay, so you're going to give me a word, and I have
Yes.
to tell which one
Well,
it is?
some of these are statements, and I have not read through all these, so who knows? All right. All of these are chili, by the way. I don't know if I made
You just
that
told
clear.
us.
No, that's the point. All of these are chili, but chili is used in so many
Okay,
different
I
ways.
see.
I'll start with an easy one. Sometimes made with beans.
That's the food.
That is chili the food. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wish you're going to put sound effects in for this. Okay.
Oh, well, what's the sound effect going to be for
Excellent
that?
No telling.
Easter Island is a province of this place.
It's a country.
Chile, the country. Yes. I don't know how to read this. One of the first domesticated plants.
What are all my choices?
I already gave them to you.
It's a pepper.
Thank you. That is the pepper. You know what would be even funnier? Actually, I'm just thinking of this out of context.
What?
If no matter what I read, you just say, that's chili.
Yeah. That, my friend.
That restart. That is so much funny.
Birds are immune to the heat of this plant.
That is chili.
Correct. Easter Island is a province of this place.
That is chili.
Also correct. 33 degrees Fahrenheit.
Is chili. You gotta hold it together.
I'm sorry.
See how good our podcast will be.
I know. It would be fat. And thank you, Joanna, for putting these together. Okay, get it back together. Annually sells 60.4 million pounds.
Chili.
Hold on. No, this is the
It's chili.
this is the trick. Okay. Sells enough Presidente margaritas every year to fill up more than 4,500 bathtubs.
Chili.
Incorrect. Chili's,
Oh,
the restaurant.
plural.
did my best. It's actually possessive.
Understood.
God bless you.
Hypocrisy thing.
80% of the terrain is mountainous.
That is chilly.
Historians credit Canary Island women who migrated to San Antonio, Texas, for its creation.
That, of course, they came for chili.
And finally, will be featured at this Thursday's Men's Chili Cook-Off.
Chili, oh plenty. Chili.
We'll see you there.
Cut.
You got to keep it together.
Oh, that was great.
That was pretty
We
funny.
figured that bit out on the fly.
Yeah,
didn't we?
that was good. Yeah, that wasn't bad. And did you want to tell the people about the Bible study before we absolutely go?
Yeah.
Even though it's already over.
So
But
here-
you're going to do the next thing.
Here's some things. So we have Bible studies here at Valleydale. We'd love to plug you into doing a curriculum from themanchurch.com. Wednesdays, you can go to rickandbubba.com to the YouTube channel. And I mean, there's archives for like 8 years
Yeah,
worth of
it's
different
awesome.
books of the Bible. We actually did Unsaved Christian too.
Oh, you did?
We walked through that book, yeah. But we just finished, we'll finish this Wednesday, the last few verses of the Revelation, but you can go back and walk through the entire. The men had some in the lobby today say this walk through the Revelation. We did Genesis for a year. We just did the Revelation for 11 months. And so you can get that at rickandbubba.com on the YouTube channel. But if you just want archives, go to themanchurch.com. You can listen to them or watch them. Just look at the media button there, or burgessministries.com, and you can listen to them
all
there.
there.
It's
It's
all
all there.
Yep.
Thanks for preaching today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
taking time out of your busy schedule.
I'm
You
looking
gotta-
forward to singing Thursday too.
That's right.
I'm
Rick's singing on Thursday.
Did y'all know this?
Yeah.
Did you know this?
Pike, you've got that background track ready, right?
I'm
For-
singing. I'm actually singing. I used to be the
Pike, you know how to mute those microphones, right?
Yep.
Okay.
before Jesus.
Hairband wig too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
before Jesus, I was actually the lead singer of a rock band, and Kirkwood has watched
talked
and
about this.
let me go through several years of sanctification. He's going to let me sing here.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. I think it's finally time. So we'll have to do a recap podcast.
And that'll
of
be
how that
Pentecostal
goes.
too, because I'll step on the stage and say, "Stand up and shout!"
That's beyond Pentecostal.
Okay, sorry.
That's
All right,
that's full on striper.
sorry about
Are
that.
you going to unbutton like 3 of these buttons just for the show?
And of course, the gold chain.
Oh my God! I said you don't have to be Italian. I don't know what you're doing. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
That was great.